Lovely to see you. Great to see you.
You made it.
You've said this is a very special place for you in the past. You've said this is your happy place. What is so special about...
It began with a single envelope. No seal, crest, or royal insignia. Just a plain white package smuggled through the back gates of Clarence House late one rainy evening. There is a letter inside, handwritten, controlled and precise. There are no threats, no demands. A simple statement might bring down the monarchy. I believe I am the biological child of King Charles III, DNA evidence enclosed. For decades, the British public has talked about the royal family's secrets, affairs, betrayals, and hidden heirs. Some rumors faded into obscurity, while others burned brighter over time. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared Buckingham Palace for the devastation caused by that single letter. Because the evidence was not weak. There was no speculation. It wasn't a cash grab by some foolish pretender seeking 15 minutes of fame. It was scientific, documented, verified, a complete DNA result from a qualified European genetics lab, clear, clinical, and indisputable. And the outcome, a 99.9% match. Not to Prince William, not for Prince Harry, but to King Charles himself. The palace, understandably, went into complete lockdown. Press offices were told to disregard all inquiries. Internal emails were deleted. Legal teams were mobilized within hours. However, the news quickly circulated worldwide. DNA was not the only factor that distinguished this scandal. It was the timing. With Charles still adjusting to his reign and Queen Camilla still clinging to public legitimacy, the revelation of a secret kid, the result of a romance that predated even Diana, threatened to destabilize everything. And in the midst of it all, Camilla, she fought for her spot for decades. The mistress became queen. Many people have never really embraced this figure. Not only had Charles betrayed her with another woman, but he also fathered a kid with her. And that child, now grown, may have a claim, if not to the throne, then to the heritage, the narrative, the family name. The pandemonium behind the royal gates included screams, ruined heirlooms, legal threats, and a stunning quiet from King Charles, as if he knew, as if he remembered, as if the rumors had always been true. The monarchy has faced scandals before, but this is personal. This is blood. Camilla, enraged, betrayed, and dangerously surrounded, is ready to go ballistic. Royal affairs are not new. For generations, the British royalty has avoided whispered romances, covert rendezvous, and disguised love letters sent between palace walls. Few rumors have stuck to the crown as tenaciously or silently as the mystery of King Charles' other affair, the one before Camilla. Everyone is familiar with Charles and Diana's terrible fairy tale, which unfolded in front of the entire world. Everyone knows about Camilla, the forbidden love who rose to become queen. But few dare to talk about the woman who came before them. Fewer still know her name. She was never photographed with him. She never conducted interviews. She never asked for a title, but she was there. In the late 1970s, when Charles had officially assumed royal duties, and long before he was urged to marry Diana. According to buried royal correspondence and old staff stories, her name was Lady Sarah Keppel, and she was a striking woman of aristocratic descent, noted for her knowledge, prudence, and cool demeanor. She mingled in the same exclusive circles as Charles, frequently attending diplomatic dinners, horse races, and gallery exhibitions. Friends referred to her as charming but cautious, always 3 steps ahead. Charles sought safety in the uncommon combination of poise and privacy. Camilla had just married Andrew Parker Bowles. Diana was still a teen. Charles, 30 and restless, was under pressure to settle down, have children, and choose a proper bride. But what he wanted was Sarah. Insiders say their romance lasted over 2 years. Balmoral offers quiet weekends. Late-night calls are channeled through trusted aides. A rumored journey to Italy in 1979 under the pretense of foreign relations. There were even reports of a planned engagement, which was abruptly canceled after Queen Elizabeth reportedly thought Sarah too emotionally sharp to be molded into a royal bride. And with that, she vanished from the royal radar. There's no scandal. There is no public fallout. She returned to private life, married a French ambassador 2 years later, and relocated to Switzerland, but not before reportedly giving birth to a son. A son was born 9 months after her final meeting with Charles, during which, according to a former valet, he looked as though he had the weight of the world on his shoulders. The youngster, now in his early 40s, was reared abroad, privately educated, well-groomed, but not ostentatious. Most surprisingly, they are always financially stable. His education was purportedly paid for by an anonymous British benefactor. For his 18th birthday, he received a fancy automobile with no traceable buyer. During a visit to London, he was seen entering a royal-adjacent legal office through the back door. Still, the rumor remained just that, a rumor, until now. For decades, the murmurs about Charles's lost heir, the discreet romance that gave birth to a royal child, were kept under wraps. Palace aides denied it. Journalists avoided it for fear of legal repercussions. In a rare offhand remark to a confidant, the Queen is reported to have dismissed the notion as a fantasy people invent to cope with the dullness of royal life. However, truth, like blood, tends to rise. As the monarchy faced increasing pressure for transparency, more stories began to surface. A retired footman claimed he once gave roses to a woman Charles couldn't forget. A royal archivist was quietly removed after allegedly discovering personal letters placed under false drawers at Clarence House. An anonymous call to a European publication suggested that Charles's deepest secret wears his face. Nonetheless, the palace remained firm. There is no acknowledgement, no comment, don't be concerned. But behind the scenes, the tension was rising. Camilla, whose jealousy is well documented, supposedly banned Charles from discussing Sarah in private. When asked by a close aide if he had ever fathered a kid before Diana, Charles reportedly turned pale. Now, with DNA evidence in the spotlight and a grown man claiming the title no one dared to pronounce aloud, the whispers are no longer so. They are knocking on the gates of Buckingham Palace. Camilla is going to hear them, loud and clear. His name is not included in history books. You won't find dazzling magazine covers with his infant photographs. And yet, for more than 4 decades, one individual has quietly existed on the outside of royal acknowledgement, born not of scandal, but of silence. Meet Sebastian David Keppel, whose life is a conundrum, public but hidden, privileged but invisible. There may be an unacknowledged son of King Charles III. Sebastian was born in Geneva, Switzerland, in early 1980, 9 months after Lady Sarah Keppel's penultimate visit to the UK. His birth certificate shows no father. His mother, noble by ancestry but notoriously private, denied interviews and moved to a countryside estate outside Lausanne, away from prying eyes. From the start, his life was odd. A family trust funded all of his childhood education, which began at an upscale Montessori institute and continued at a private British boarding school. His teachers characterized him as polished, well-spoken, intensely curious, and eerily mature. One even noted that he had the poise of someone raised for the public eye, but without the public. Finally, there was his face. Sharp cheekbones, closed-set eyes, a profile that bore a striking resemblance to Charles in his early years. It wasn't just subtle, it was striking. A teacher once remarked, "If I didn't know better, I'd say you're straight out of Sandringham." Sebastian simply grinned. In his early 20s, he moved to London, but not to party, model, or seek celebrity. Instead, he secretly enrolled at King's College London to study international law. No social media, no flashy automobiles. However, everything is already paid for. Those close to him were surprised by the nature of his financial support. According to a former flatmate, he never discussed where the money came from, but it was always there. Tuition, rent, and even custom tailoring. It was as though he had a shadow sponsor. According to recently released financial documents, the sponsor was a shell trust affiliated with a private royal law office, the same firm that had previously managed Charles's Duchy of Cornwall estate. Coincidence? Maybe. Then came the murmurs. Sebastian had been sighted near Clarence House on several occasions, but never via the front entrance, and never announced. Former employees have stated that he was rushed in and out the back, no press, no record, always at night. A veteran chauffeur recounted a difficult exchange in which a senior official said, "If she ever finds out he's still in contact with Charles, it'll be World War III. She, of course, refers to Camilla. Sebastian has never spoken publicly. There are no interviews, there are no lawsuits, but others close to him claim he has always known the truth. One childhood acquaintance recounted Sebastian opening a faded envelope at the age of 16 and whispering, "Everything I thought I knew about myself is a lie." Still, he stayed mute. Until now. What has changed? According to sources, it was the most recent coronation, when Charles officially took the crown. Watching the man he thought was his father inherit the throne while pretending he didn't exist broke something within him. Sebastian soon began secretly seeking legal advice. After exchanging DNA samples and receiving lab results, the reality became evident. He is a 99.9% match with King Charles III. Nonetheless, the palace does not mention his name. His existence is unacknowledged. But the evidence is out, and the world is watching. No matter how hard you attempt to hide a secret, it eventually grows up and knocks at your palace door. The British monarchy has always relied on discretion, secrecy, and precise timing. But no amount of palace protocol could have prepared them for what arrived via courier one brisk morning at a private legal office in Mayfair. A sealed genetic report, complete with certified documentation, independent laboratory approval, and a devastating conclusion. King Charles III was biologically the father of a 44-year-old man the monarchy has never publicly recognized. Sebastian David Keppel, Charles and Lady Sarah Keppel's claimed love child, began discreetly seeking answers months ago. Friends say he had carried the weight of the unknown for decades, raising suspicion but never providing clarification. A man who had been advised to remain quiet, humble, and not ask too many questions. But after Charles's coronation, something changed. He couldn't take it anymore, a confidant admitted. To watch the man he believed to be his father wear the crown and act like he didn't exist, it was a deep, almost spiritual betrayal. Sebastian contacted a well-known European genetic testing agency situated in Switzerland, which is recognized for its confidentiality with high-profile clients such as royals, millionaires, and politicians. The technique was straightforward, but the consequences were anything but. To determine paternity, the authorities required DNA samples from both Sebastian and Charles. This is where the story takes an explosive turn. A contact in palace maintenance, reputedly a former butler with quiet sympathies, brought a hair sample from King Charles, carefully extracted from a recently used travel comb. The chain of custody was secure, legally solid, and confirmed by two third-party witnesses. Sebastian's own sample was collected under tight laboratory monitoring. What are the results? A 99.97% match. There's no room for discussion. There is no loophole, no question. Sebastian was not a pretender. He was not deluded. He was, scientifically speaking, King Charles's biological son. When Sebastian's legal team received the report, they did not immediately contact the media. Instead, they followed the process. A secret letter was sent to Clarence House and addressed directly to King Charles. It included a copy of the DNA report, a brief statement from Sebastian, and a simple request. "I don't want a title. I don't want wealth. I just want the truth to be acknowledged publicly." According to insiders, the palace immediately implemented damage control measures. Camilla was reportedly removed from a scheduled appearance. Legal teams were deployed. Phones rang continuously for 48 hours, not because they questioned the legitimacy of the results, but because they verified what they had feared. One assistant, speaking anonymously, stated, "There was no denial, no outrage, just silence. The kind of silence that screams guilt." Within days, hushed talks were held behind locked doors. Camilla, angry, demanded to know how this was possible and how it had been secret for so long. Multiple palace staffers said that Charles appeared haunted, not startled. "I'm not confused, just horribly and disturbingly haunted." Outside the palace gates, the journalists started to stir. The document had been leaked, not by Sebastian, but by someone in legal circles who was outraged that the monarchy was attempting to bury the truth once more. The information spread to other European outlets before making international headlines. Royal DNA bombshell. Charles fathered secret son, Lab confirms. Crown contaminated. King's love child surfaces with scientific proof. Camilla's worst nightmare. Secret heir confirmed. And with that, the fairy tale cracked. Because in the face of cold clinical science, the palace's centuries-long legacy of secrecy, spin, and suppression had finally been tested. There'd be no denying it now. The king had a son. Camilla's reign was not without rivals. The instant the DNA results arrived at Clarence House, the atmosphere changed. Staff described it as suffocating, as if a storm was crushing down on the walls itself. For Queen Camilla, the scandal was more than just humiliating. It was personal warfare, exploding right in the heart of her meticulously planned reign. Camilla snapped when the truth emerged from behind the palace walls. The initial signs arrived quietly. She canceled an afternoon meeting with the royal charities. Her security team was reshuffled. A private supper with Charles was apparently relocated, not to the dining room, but to opposite ends of the house. Then followed the blast. According to several royal sources, Camilla screamed for approximately 20 minutes after getting the DNA documents. She shut herself in her room, hurling crystal glassware at the walls. A longtime maid was seen exiting the apartment in tears. Another said she'd never heard such rage from a human being. She was unhinged, one insider admitted. It wasn't just about the affair, it was about its significance. The child is real. The DNA is authentic, and soon the entire country will know that Charles fathered another child, but not with her. Camilla, who rose from mistress to queen consort after decades of scandal, thought she had buried her nightmare. She had already faced public criticism for being the other woman in Charles and Diana's failed marriage. She endured boos, sneers, and articles calling her a homewrecker. Nevertheless, she survived. She won. She married the king. And now, just as she was about to be crowned, the past reappeared, this time in flesh and blood rather than rumor. A mature man with royal DNA, media support, and the ability to demolish her legacy with a single interview. According to palace personnel, Camilla quickly asked that the legal team erase this embarrassment by issuing a statement disputing the DNA claim, denigrating Sebastian, and threatening legal action against any outlet that covered the story. But Charles did not answer. He scarcely spoke at all. Camilla was infuriated by the stillness. She allegedly accused him of letting Diana's ghost ruin them all over again. She banged a door so fiercely that the frame broke. Security was apparently ordered to stand outside her suite, not because she was a threat to others, but because she was completely out of control. Insiders say what stung the most was the public's sympathy for Sebastian. He was not making demands. He was not pursuing titles. He just wanted to be acknowledged, and Camilla looked even worse in comparison with his calm, noble demeanor. In a leaked audio message to a confidant, Camilla reportedly said, "They will paint him as the rightful heir. They will make me look like a fraud. Again, after all, I've given up. After everything I've sacrificed." Some courtiers have whispered that Diana's meltdown was the worst they'd witnessed since her iconic confrontations with Charles, a horrible combination of sadness, anxiety, and desperation. She was no longer the calm queen seen waving alongside the king. Camilla had transformed herself behind closed doors into a woman in turmoil. Furthermore, she feared she was being replaced, which was potentially harmful, by a ghost. By secret, by a son who by blood stood within striking reach of the throne. And Camilla? She was willing to go to war to end it. While Clarence House was in disarray and Camilla's rage echoed behind closed doors, Prince William and Princess Catherine remained calm, not just for the cameras, but for the monarchy's future. Their serene expressions revealed deliberate control rather than apathy. In a palace shaken by DNA disclosures and betrayal, William and Kate remained silent. Instead, they tightened their circle, surveyed the battlefield, and moved like chess experts. Privately, William was claimed to be shaken but not surprised. Rumors about a half-brother had been circulating in his family for many years. As a child, he had heard murmurs from royal officials, instructors, and even tabloids. However, there had never been any scientific confirmation. And now, with the DNA results confirmed and the palace scurrying, he realized what was at stake. This wasn't just a scandal involving Charles. This was about public trust, about succession optics, about the monarchy's already precarious position in a modern world that no longer tolerates dynastic dishonesty. According to insiders, William told his advisors, "We do not interfere, we do not smear, we wait, and we prepare." His top objective wasn't to undermine Sebastian, but to safeguard his children. Prince Louis, Princess Charlotte, and Prince George represented the monarchy's future. The discovery of a secret half-uncle may sway public opinion, spark intrigues, and jeopardize the carefully cultivated image of royal continuity. William, who had been prepared for this from birth, preferred quiet power to regal retaliation. Kate, as usual, was William's anchor. Behind royal walls, she provided tough advice. She reminded William of the significance of appearing above the storm. Their public appearances were poised, affectionate, and unwavering. They were photographed by paparazzi while attending children's events, supporting charities, and visiting dignitaries, never recognizing the behind-the-scenes drama. In private, however, Kate was already planning. According to sources, she arranged for internal media specialists to monitor the narrative across multiple platforms. Her team collated every headline, tweet, and video on Sebastian's emergence, not to silence, but to comprehend, to anticipate. What did they see? The public sympathizes, not for Camilla, not for Charles, but for Sebastian. A calm, articulate man who wants nothing more than to be acknowledged. With each passing day, the calls for a public declaration from Buckingham Palace were louder. Some speculated William may contact Sebastian directly. Others assumed he was waiting to see if Charles would speak up or let the stillness engulf them all. Whatever the strategy, one thing was certain. William and Kate had learnt from history. They were aware of how the firm mishandled Diana. They were aware of the dangers of remaining silent, and they weren't about to repeat history. Camilla may have been crumbling under pressure. Charles may have been hiding behind antique doors. What about William and Kate? They had previously planned for the monarchy's continuance, and their strategy was straightforward. Remain calm, be prepared, and take the initiative when the time comes. For decades, it was just a rumor, a whisper from behind velvet curtains. Those who had seen too much but said too little exchanged knowing glances. But now, it is a fact. The DNA test does not lie. A guy raised in silence, hidden from the public sight, bears the blood of a king. He has Charles's eyes, his posture, even his voice. And now, owing to science, he knows the truth, and the rest of the world has proof. Camilla's outrage may have grabbed the headlines. Her rants, slammed doors, and fear of being replaced were all indications of a queen whose power was never stable. But what's the real story? The rot in the heart of the monarchy, lifelong secrecy, a legacy based on denial. And Charles, the man in the middle of it all, his quiet is deafening. There's no denying it anymore. Sebastian exists. He is real. He is royal. And while he may never wear a crown, his mere presence is enough to remove it from those who do. The monarchy has always positioned itself as untouchable, representing divine continuity. But this story reveals something even more dangerous. They bleed, they tell lies, they conceal. Sometimes the truth shows up at the palace door with a birth certificate and DNA results in hand. William and Kate may save what they can. The firm may spin whatever they like. However, this chapter cannot be unwritten. The narrative was told. The crown's deepest secret has been revealed. It is exposed. It is undeniable. And it is royal.